You think he's just casually interested, playing it cool, maybe even pulling away. But what if I told you that his unconscious mind has already decided you're the one, and he has absolutely no idea? While you're analyzing his mixed signals and wondering where you stand, Sigmund Freud would tell you to look deeper, because the signs of unconscious love are written all over his behavior in ways that bypass his logical mind completely. Most women miss these signs because they're looking for conscious declarations of love, instead of recognizing that the deepest feelings operate below the surface of awareness. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to read the secret language of his unconscious mind and understand just how gone he really is for you. According to Sigmund Freud, the unconscious mind holds our deepest truths, especially when it comes to love. Most men have no idea how deeply they've fallen for you because their conscious mind actively resists acknowledging these intense feelings. The unconscious doesn't lie, though. It stores every moment of connection, every spark of attraction, every protective instinct he feels toward you. While his logical mind might tell him to keep things casual or maintain emotional distance, his unconscious is already planning a future with you. This creates an internal battle where he genuinely believes he's just attracted to you, while his unconscious mind has already claimed you as his person. The beauty of the unconscious mind is that it reveals itself through behaviors he can't control or explain. He finds himself thinking about you at random moments, feeling inexplicably happy when you text, or becoming protective in ways that surprise even him. Freud believed that love operates primarily from the unconscious realm, meaning the deepest connections happen below the surface of awareness. When a man is unconsciously in love, he'll start incorporating you into his future plans without realizing it, mention you in conversations naturally, and feel a sense of incompleteness when you're not around. These aren't calculated moves. They're unconscious expressions of a love he hasn't yet admitted to himself. The unconscious mind also processes attachment differently than the conscious mind does. While consciously he might be evaluating compatibility and timing, unconsciously he's already bonded with your energy, your laugh, the way you make him feel about himself. Freud taught us that the unconscious operates on emotional truth, rather than logic, which is why you might sense his deep feelings even when his words suggest otherwise. Trust what you observe in his unconscious behaviors, because this is where his authentic feelings live, unfiltered by fear, social conditioning, or past relationship trauma that his conscious mind uses to protect itself. Freud identified defense mechanisms as the psyche's way of protecting itself from overwhelming emotions, and nowhere is this more obvious than when a man is falling deeply in love. The stronger his feelings become, the more his mind activates protective barriers to shield him from potential heartbreak or vulnerability. You might notice him pulling back right after moments of intense connection, acting aloof when he was just being sweet, or creating drama over small issues when things feel too perfect. These aren't signs he's losing interest. They're actually proof that his feelings are becoming too intense for his comfort zone. His unconscious is screaming that you're special, while his defense mechanisms are frantically trying to maintain emotional safety. The most common defense mechanism in love is what Freud called reaction formation, where someone acts opposite to how they truly feel. When he's scared of how much he cares about you, he might act like he doesn't care at all, show up late to dates, or seem distracted when you're together. Intellectualization is another favorite, where he overanalyzes the relationship instead of feeling it, discussing compatibility like a business transaction rather than acknowledging the emotional earthquake happening inside him. Displacement might show up as him picking fights about random things when he's really just terrified of admitting he's completely gone for you. These behaviors feel contradictory because they are. His heart wants you while his mind is in full protection mode. Understanding his defense mechanisms gives you incredible power in the relationship because you can see through the smokescreen to his real feelings. When he's being difficult or distant, ask yourself what vulnerable emotion he might be protecting himself from. Usually, it's the fear of loving you too much, needing you too much, or not being enough for you. Freud believed that defense mechanisms actually reveal what we're defending against, so his resistance often points directly to the depth of his feelings. The stronger the defense, the more intense the underlying emotion, which means his coldest moments might actually indicate his warmest feelings toward you. Freud discovered that we unconsciously project our deepest desires and unresolved feelings onto the people we love, and this is especially powerful in romantic relationships. When a man is falling for you without realizing it, he begins to see you through the lens of his unconscious feminine ideal, the perfect woman he's been searching for his entire life. This isn't about you fitting some superficial checklist. It's about you triggering something primal in his psyche that feels like coming home. He starts attributing qualities to you that go beyond what he actually knows about you, seeing you as nurturing, wise, or magical in ways that seem almost irrational. This projection happens because his unconscious recognizes you as the woman who can heal his deepest wounds and fulfill his most profound needs. Transference takes this even deeper, as he unconsciously begins relating to you based on his earliest experiences with feminine energy, usually his mother or primary caregiver. If he had a loving relationship with his mother, he'll transfer those feelings of safety, comfort, and unconditional love onto you, often without understanding why he feels so peaceful in your presence. You become the woman who can do no wrong, whose approval matters more than anyone else's, whose happiness becomes essential to his own well-being. This transference explains why he might seem to worship you one day and test your patience the next. He's unconsciously working through his entire relationship with feminine energy through his connection with you. It's not really about your actions. It's about what you represent in his unconscious mind. The most telling sign of projection and transference is when he starts treating you like you're incredibly special before he has logical reasons to feel that way. He might call you perfect, say you're different from other women, or act like losing you would be devastating after knowing you for a relatively short time. Freud would say this intensity comes from his unconscious recognizing you as the missing piece of his psychological puzzle. When projection and transference are happening, he's not just falling for who you are, he's falling for who you represent in his deepest psyche, the feminine energy that can complete him. This is why the connection feels so intense and unexplainable. It's operating on an unconscious level that goes far beyond surface attraction. Freud's concept of repetition compulsion explains why some men seem trapped in a cycle of pulling you close, then pushing you away, only to come back even stronger each time. This unconscious drive forces us to repeat patterns until we master them. And when a man is deeply in love, but terrified of that love, he'll keep recreating scenarios where he has to choose you over and over again. He might break up with you, or create distance, convincing himself he's done, only to find himself inexplicably drawn back into your orbit. This isn't game playing or manipulation. It's his psyche trying to work through the terror of loving someone so completely that losing them would devastate him. Each time he comes back, he's unconsciously testing whether this love is real and whether he can handle the vulnerability it requires. The repetition shows up in smaller ways too, like him starting arguments that lead to passionate reconciliations, or creating drama that ultimately brings you closer together. His unconscious mind is orchestrating these patterns because it needs to prove that your connection can survive conflict, that you'll fight for him, and that this love is strong enough to withstand his fears. Freud believed we repeat what we haven't integrated, so his push and pull dynamic is actually his psyche's way of gradually accepting the reality of his deep feelings for you. Every time he leaves and comes back, every time he tests the relationship and finds it intact, he's building unconscious confidence that this love might actually be safe. The compulsion continues until he fully accepts that he's completely gone for you. What makes repetition compulsion so obvious in love is the increasing intensity each time he returns. He doesn't just come back casually, he comes back with more passion, more certainty, more investment than before. This is because each cycle teaches his unconscious that you're worth the risk, that the love is real, and that he can survive being vulnerable with you. The pattern only breaks when he finally surrenders to the depth of his feelings and stops fighting against them. Until then, he'll keep creating opportunities to choose you, unconsciously addicted to the relief and joy he feels every time he stops resisting and comes home to your love. The repetition itself is proof of how much you mean to him, even when he can't consciously admit it. Freud taught us that sexual energy doesn't just stay sexual. It transforms into other expressions of love and care through a process called sublimation. When a man is falling deeply in love with you, his raw attraction begins converting into an almost paternal protectiveness and nurturing behavior that surprises even him. You'll notice him doing things like checking if you got home safely, remembering when you have important meetings, or getting genuinely upset when someone treats you poorly. This isn't just being a good boyfriend, it's his sexual energy being redirected into caretaking behaviors because his unconscious sees you as precious and worthy of protection. The deeper his attraction, the more his primal masculine energy wants to shield you from anything that might cause you pain or stress. This sublimation shows up in surprisingly tender moments, where his tough exterior completely melts around you. He might find himself wanting to cook for you, fix things in your apartment, or handle problems you're dealing with at work or with family. Freud would say this is his libido transforming into what he called aim-inhibited love, where the sexual drive becomes a broader desire to care for and cherish you. You become not just the object of his desire, but the person he wants to nurture and protect above all others. This is why you might notice him being unusually gentle with you, speaking to you in softer tones, or treating you like your maid. Of something precious, his unconscious has elevated you to a status that demands reverence and protection. The most beautiful part of this sublimation is how it reveals the spiritual dimension of his love for you. When sexual energy transforms into protective care, it shows that his feelings have transcended pure physical attraction and entered sacred territory. He's not just turned on by you, he's devoted to you in a way that encompasses your well-being, happiness, and success. You might catch him staring at you with an expression that seems almost worshipful, or notice how he lights up when he can do something that makes your life easier. This sublimated energy creates a love that feels both passionate and pure, where his desire to possess you becomes a desire to protect and cherish you. It's one of the most reliable signs that his feelings have moved far beyond casual attraction into something transformative. Freud's Oedipus complex doesn't end in childhood. It evolves into how men relate to women throughout their lives. And when a man is unconsciously in love with you, you become the woman who finally resolves this ancient psychological pattern. You'll notice he treats you differently than he treats other women, with a reverence that seems almost maternal yet deeply romantic. He might seek your approval in ways that seem disproportionate to how long you've known each other, asking for your opinion on everything from his career decisions to what he should wear. This isn't insecurity, it's his unconscious recognizing you as the feminine authority in his life, the woman whose judgment matters more than anyone else's. You've become the updated version of his first love object, but now he's psychologically mature enough to win you. The Oedipal dynamic shows up in how he positions you in his life relative to other important people, especially his family. He might find himself defending you to his mother in ways that surprise him, or feeling torn between family obligations and what you want or need. Freud would say this conflict indicates you've become his primary feminine attachment, the woman. He's unconsciously chosen to build his adult life around. You might notice him comparing other women unfavorably to you, not in obvious ways, but in subtle comments about how other women don't understand him like you do, or how they lack something essential that you possess naturally. He's unconsciously established you as his feminine ideal, the standard by which all other women are measured and found wanting. What makes this particularly powerful is how he begins to see qualities in you that seem almost mythical or maternal, even when you're not trying to mother him. He might tell you that you make him feel calm, that you understand him better than anyone ever has, or that you bring out the best version of himself. This is his unconscious recognizing you as the woman who can love him the way he always needed. To be loved, completely and unconditionally. The Oedipal resolution happens when he can love you as both the nurturing feminine energy he craved and the passionate woman he desires, integrating these aspects into a mature love that encompasses both reverence and romance. When this integration occurs, you become irreplaceable to him because you fulfill both his deepest psychological needs and his adult romantic desires. Freud discovered that our unconscious mind reveals itself through seemingly accidental mistakes in speech and behavior, and when a man is unconsciously in love, these slips become windows into his hidden feelings. You might catch him calling you by pet names he's never used before, referring to future plans as if you're automatically included, or accidentally saying "I love you" during casual conversation, then quickly covering it up with a joke. These aren't random errors. They're his unconscious mind speaking the truth. His conscious mind isn't ready to acknowledge. Pay attention to what slips out when he's relaxed, tired, or caught off guard, because these moments bypass his mental filters and reveal what's really happening in his heart. His actions betray him just as much as his words do, through what Freud called parapraxis, meaningful mistakes that seem accidental but carry unconscious intention. He might forget to mention other women he's dating, accidentally leave personal items at your place, or show up at places where he knows you'll be while claiming it's just coincidence. His phone might auto-correct other women's names to yours in texts, or he might find himself driving to your neighborhood without planning to. These behavioral slips happen because his unconscious is already treating you as his primary relationship, making decisions that align with deeper feelings he hasn't consciously admitted. His mind and body are voting for you even when he thinks he's keeping things casual. The most revealing Freudian slips happen during emotional moments when his defenses are down. He might call you his girlfriend to a stranger, introduce you as someone more important than you officially are, or use language that implies a deeper commitment than you've actually discussed. During arguments, his slips might reveal how much losing you terrifies him, or during intimate moments, he might say things that indicate you mean everything to him. Freud taught us that these mistakes aren't really mistakes at all. They're the unconscious mind's way of expressing truths that the conscious mind is too afraid to speak. When you start noticing patterns in his slips, you're seeing direct evidence of feelings he doesn't even know he has, making these moments incredibly powerful indicators of his unconscious love for you. Freud called dreams the royal road to the unconscious, and when a man is falling deeply in love without realizing it, his sleep patterns and dream content become incredibly revealing. He might start talking about vivid dreams where you appear as a central figure, or mention having unusually peaceful sleep when he's been around you. His unconscious mind uses sleep time to process the intensity of his feelings, often creating dreams where you two are in domestic situations, facing challenges together, or where he's protecting you from danger. These dreams aren't random. They're his psyche, rehearsing a life with you and working through the emotional significance of what you represent to him. Even if he dismisses these dreams as meaningless, they're actually his unconscious mind's way of exploring the possibility of forever with you. Pay attention to changes in his sleep behavior when he's around you versus when he's not. Men who are unconsciously in love often experience deeper, more restful sleep in your presence because you represent safety and home to their psyche. He might mention sleeping better after spending time with you, or seem unusually relaxed and peaceful when he wakes up next to you. Freud believed that the unconscious never sleeps. It simply shifts into a different mode of processing. So his improved sleep quality around you indicates that his deepest mind recognizes you as a source of comfort and security. This biological response to your presence is his body's way of telling him what his conscious mind isn't ready to acknowledge. The content of his dreams about you reveals the emotional work his unconscious is doing to integrate his feelings. He might dream about introducing you to family members he's never mentioned, buying a house together, or scenarios where he has to choose between you and something else important to him. These dreams often feature symbols of commitment, protection, or permanence, because his unconscious is exploring what it would mean to fully surrender to his love for you. Even anxiety dreams about losing you or not being good enough for you are actually positive signs. They show that his unconscious mind considers you valuable enough to worry about. When dreams consistently feature themes of building a life together or deep emotional connection, his sleeping mind is already planning the future his waking mind hasn't caught up to yet. Freud identified the constant battle between our pleasure principle, which seeks immediate gratification and joy, and our reality principle, which considers consequences and tries to protect us from pain. When a man is unconsciously in love with you, these two forces create an internal war that explains his confusing hot and cold behavior. His pleasure principle is completely enchanted by you, craving your presence, your touch, your attention, and the incredible feelings you give him. This part of him wants to dive headfirst into love, spend every moment with you, and surrender completely to the bliss of connection. However, his reality principle immediately kicks in with warnings about heartbreak, loss of freedom, past relationship trauma, and all the ways love can go wrong. This internal struggle manifests as him being incredibly present and affectionate one day, then distant and analytical the next. His pleasure principle makes him text you constantly, plan romantic dates, and get lost in conversations with you for hours. But then his reality principle panics and reminds him of every relationship that didn't work out, every time he's been hurt, and every reason why getting too attached is dangerous. You might notice him pulling back right after the most beautiful moments between you, not because the connection wasn't real, but because it was so real that it triggered his protective mechanisms. The intensity of pleasure he feels with you is directly proportional to the fear his reality principle generates about potential loss. Understanding this battle helps you navigate his seemingly contradictory behavior with compassion rather than confusion. When he's in pleasure principle mode, he's showing you his authentic feelings, the pure joy and attraction he experiences in your presence. When reality principle takes over, he's not rejecting those feelings. He's trying to protect himself from them because they feel too intense and therefore too risky. Freud believed that psychological maturity comes from integrating these two principles, and a man truly ready for love learns to honor both his desire for you and his need for emotional safety. The goal isn't to eliminate his reality principle, but to help him see that the pleasure of loving you is worth the vulnerability it requires, and that true security comes from authentic connection rather than emotional walls. Freud taught us That regression, returning to earlier psychological states, often happens when we feel safe enough to drop our adult defenses and show our most vulnerable selves. When a man is unconsciously in love with you, he begins to exhibit childlike behaviors that reveal just how secure and accepted he feels in your presence. You might notice him being more playful, silly or spontaneous than usual, laughing at things that wouldn't normally amuse him, or seeking physical comfort from you in ways that seem almost innocent. This regression isn't immaturity. It's his psyche's way of showing you the parts of himself he usually keeps hidden behind his adult persona. The fact that he feels safe enough to be childlike around you is actually one of the most profound signs of unconscious love. This psychological regression shows up in how he seeks your attention, approval, and comfort, in ways that mirror how a child relates to someone they trust completely. He might pout when you're busy with other things, get excited about sharing small victories with you, or seek your validation for decisions he would normally make independently. You become the person he runs to when he's hurt, confused, or celebrating, much like a child naturally turns to their primary caregiver. Freud would say this regression indicates that you've become his secure base, the person around whom he can lower all his defenses and show his authentic self. This is incredibly intimate because most adults spend enormous energy maintaining their composed, capable facade. The most beautiful aspect of this regression is how it reveals his capacity for pure, uncomplicated love. When he's in this childlike state with you, his feelings are direct and honest, without the complexity and fear that usually characterize adult relationships. He might express affection in simple, straightforward ways, get genuinely excited about spending time with you, or show emotions more openly than he does with anyone else. This regression is his unconscious mind's way of accessing the part of himself that knows how to love without conditions, calculations, or protective strategies. When a man regresses psychologically around you, he's essentially saying that you make him feel safe enough to be his truest, most vulnerable self, which is the deepest form of trust and love his unconscious can offer. So here's the question that will change everything. If he's showing these unconscious signs of deep love, what are you going to do with that power? Are you going to wait for him to figure it out on his own, or are you going to understand that his unconscious has already chosen you and start operating from that knowing? Freud showed us that the unconscious doesn't lie. It reveals our deepest truth through behaviors we can't control, and when you learn to read these signs, you hold the key to understanding not just his feelings, but the entire dynamic of your relationship. If this opened your eyes to what's really happening beneath the surface, subscribe, because we're diving deeper into the psychology of love. And I want to make sure you never miss these insights that can transform your relationships forever.